Oh, hello friends. Welcome back to DEGREELESSNESS, the Shanghai Pete broadcast. I hope everyone has been having a lovely week or so and has dodged as much work as possible. Personally, I am finally rid of Nurgle's Plague, which of course meant straight back to the IT mines for me. Yeah, total bummer. As always, if you enjoy our content, please like, comment, and subscribe, as it appears that's the only way to avoid getting bludgeoned to death by the ever-wrathful algorithm. And of course, if you're feeling particularly insane, you can also tip us by becoming a member of the channel or by joining the Patreon. Links and Patreon merch, all that stuff are down below. But goddamn, everybody. There are weeks when nothing happens in the gaming industry, and then there are days where, weeks happen or something. At first, there was nothing going on. Then, out of nowhere, boom, Summer Games Fest, where I guess shit continued to not happen, and, well, not entirely, I suppose, to be fair. In fact, that's sort of why we've got to get deep inside of things tonight. So, let's get to it. And yes, I would have reviewed Death Stranding 2 like all the other cool YouTubers, but I'm not important enough to have been given a copy of it for free, and I don't have enough money to buy one myself, so looks like it's going to be quite a while until I get around to reviewing that game. But something we can do, though, is put aside just enough time for a quick recap of the week, during which the new Witcher 4 tech demo apparently caused quite a stir. For those of you who haven't seen it, I'll run in the background here. Shown off during the State of Unreal event, we got to see some admittedly pretty impressive actual gameplay, or so they said, from The Witcher 4, or what was supposed to be actual gameplay. Anyway, everything looked a little too scripted, if you ask me. Definitely awesome, but also definitely pretty scripted. Which, I mean, fair enough, is to be expected given the controlled environment here, but I still would have liked to see a little of the game let off the leash, so to speak. Though, considering just how far off the game likely is, I think we can probably give the whole presentation overall thumbs up, looks good, with a please don't fuck us CDPR for good measure. I think it looks nice. Hopefully it continues to look nice and they don't fuck it up. Moving on, what would a weekly recap be without some time put aside to scold Nintendo? And oh boy, do they need some scolding. From scalping issues to embargoed early console reviews, and of course, my personal pet peeve, the lack of a new mainline Mario game, Nintendo has not exactly been killing it these days. Or, I guess, in terms of sales numbers, they have been. Seems there's no force on earth great enough to prevent these corpos from making money. Anyway, I digress as I often do. Today's Holy Shit, Really Nintendo segment is brought to us by what else if not a completely, totally, easily avoidable, unforced fuck up in the form of those goddamn Joy-Cons. Yes, friends, somehow, even more than 7 years later, Nintendo has decided the Joy-Con drift problem is just still not enough of an issue for them to bother fixing. As was recently discovered, the Switch 2, for all its fancy new technology, sort of, could not be bothered to upgrade the ancient tech found in the Joy-Cons, as they are apparently using the exact same components as the originals from motherfucking 2017. Jesus, holy shit, I'd say they've learned nothing, but that's not technically true. They have learned that it was not necessary to spend the money on fixing the problem with something like Hall effect tech, because customer resentment at the poor quality and drift issues did not amount to a significant enough impact on Nintendo's profit margins to justify making changes. If that ain't ever the case. Never forget, ladies and gents, that in the end, to these megacorps, all you mean to them is a number on a spreadsheet. And the only thing determining if you get a quality product or a game you enjoy is whether or not said number is big or small enough. That's it. Lastly tonight, while I've decided to not cover any of the Summer Game Fest nonsense or the copycat festivals, because it's honestly not worth my time considering how little was announced that I gave even the slightest fuck about, I do want to take a moment to give a special shout out to Atomic Heart 2. The trailer for this looked absolutely awesome. If you didn't play the first one, I tell you now that I loved it and think that you should play it. It was, in my humble opinion, one of the best BioShock clones that we've seen in years, and by a pretty large margin too. Full disclosure, it was made by Mundfish, which I think is a Russian developer, so you may want to consider picking up the leaked dev build instead of giving them any of your money, but as always, I leave potential political matters in your capable hands, dear audience. This was one of the very first, if not the first game from these guys, and while far from perfect, it showed more promise than legions of other similarly budgeted games. Now, was it a little rough around the edges, corny at times, cringe at others, and sort of a beautiful mess when it wasn't either of those two? Yeah, yes, without a doubt. But personally, being a huge BioShock fan and an ImSim fan and a sucker for alt history media, whether it be games, TV shows, or whatever, I fucking loved it and would heartily recommend it to any FPS or BioShock adjacent fan. And good God, they are really putting in 14.5 out of 10 for the sequel. The trailer was almost too aspirational, covering multiple biomes, enemy types, story beats, vehicle options, weapons, mysteries, humor. I was blown away. This looks almost cyberpunk in scale. Utterly crazy. Whether or not it will also prove to be mimicking cyberpunk in folly, well, we'll have to see. But for right now, consider Atomic Heart 2 by far my best in show. In fairness, Ill looks like it has potential too, but we weren't shown nearly enough of that for me to make any sort of call yet. So there's that. Oh, but there is just one more thing that I actually almost forgot until I just saw it pop up on my torrent feed. System Shock 2 25th Anniversary Remaster by the illustrious Night Dive Studios has just dropped. It is fucking awesome. If you love that kind of shit, please do not forget to go out and grab it. Whatever your preferred method to obtain it may be, go get it. It's awesome. Don't forget, just dropped. Super sick. 25th Anniversary Remaster System Shock 2, the OG. Moving on, for our main story tonight, yeah, we've got to talk about it. You knew it was coming. Here is our Resident Evil 9 special, or Resident Evil Rec 9 EM special, whatever. Please indulge me as I sort of rant, I guess, about some of my knee-jerk gut reaction to this. This is gonna be getting pretty deep inside, fair warning, in some ways deeper than usual, so please take my recommendation to now get up, go grab a soda, a snack, or roll up before I really get into it. Seriously, this is going to run kind of long. All right, everybody ready? Here we go. Number one, there is already Rule 34 of Grace Ashcroft, so everyone can relax. It's being taken care of. It's already well... it's already well in hand. Okay, I'm sorry. Number two, y'all botched the title. Capcom RE7 and 8 had this cute little font gimmick going that I was finally starting to come around to, or at least not be embarrassed by, and you ruined it. As much as I generally loathe corny subtitles, Nemesis, Reload, Revolutions, Covenant, Frozen Empire, Afterlife, Resurgence, 7 Biohazard and 8 Village sort of managed to largely avoid my ire. I'm not totally sure why that is, whether it's because the subtitle was interchangeable from the main title like Village, or whether it was just sort of ignored, maybe like RE7. Let's be honest, no one referred to that game as Biohazard. I'm not entirely sure, but it definitely worked for both somehow. That said, it is definitely not working for RE9 Requiem, or whatever it ends up being colloquially referred to as. Is this a big deal? Obviously not, no. But it is dumb, and sometimes that's worse.
Sometimes Dad is better.
Moving on, number 3. Did any of this come off as like a little too Revelations coded to any of you, or is it just me? Something about some of the monsters and scenes shown felt just like a little too Evil Within or RE Revelations, and that's... I won't say outright bad because I like the Evil Within games, but it is a little concerning, a lot because I didn't like Revelation spin-offs at all. They were too heavy-handed and kind of clumsy for me. I tried to play them and just never got more than an hour or two in before losing interest. Hopefully, that's just me being paranoid and not indicative of any actual design direction. Up next at number 4, it looks like it can be played in both third-person and first-person modes. That's great. This is where RE9 earns its first real win, in my opinion. Everyone has different preferences. Building the game around an option to use both camera styles instead of paywalling one behind some sort of sad excuse for DLC is without a doubt the correct choice. Personally, if it's not one of the original RE Trilogy games, I always prefer first-person perspective, not just because I'm better at FPS games than I am at third-person action titles, but primarily because I just find it more immersive. If you haven't played the 4 remake with an FPS camera mod and you're into FPS games, I highly recommend it. It's super sick. So, toggleable third-person and first-person camera, provided one isn't an obvious last-minute tacked-on afterthought. clear W.
That's good.
Up next, at number 5. It's gotta be said, guys, who in the balls is Grace Ashcroft? Now for a bit of perspective, I've only played the quote-unquote real Resident Evil games, so that means I've played the following. 1 through 4 multiple times, both remakes and originals. I've played all the way through Code Veronica recently enough so that my Dreamcast nostalgia goggles have been replaced by the cold, hollow knowledge that it's actually fucking awful. I only remember a co-op playthrough of 5 that was so lackluster that by the time I got to the last boss, I cared so little about the game that I sort of just forgot about it instead of bothering to beat it. When it comes to 6, I only managed to get through the first Leon chapter before the psychotic controls and schizophrenic design approach made me Alt F4 it and never go back. As for RE7 and 8, I completed at least 2 playthroughs of 7 and more than 6 of RE8, including multiple Village of Shadows runs. I've also played perhaps too much of the PSX game Resident Evil Survivor without using a light gun, I don't know why. Made multiple attempts to enjoy the Revelation spin-offs, all of which ended in failure, as well as definitely beating Zero at least once, but not any time within the last 20 years or so I can't really comment on it except to say that I recalled not totally hating it. I also enjoyed a brief dalliance with not only Resident Evil Dead Aim, but also the Umbrella Chronicles, though this was undoubtedly due more to my friends and I's obsession at the time with PS2 light gun games and a game called Vampire Knight. If you never played it, go find it, it's awesome, than to the former being any good. Finally, I'm also pretty sure I tried playing Resident Evil Gaiden for Game Boy Color at one point before voluntarily blinding myself. But that's about it. So now that you know my abridged history with Resident Evil, you know why I, probably much like you, have no clue who in the Christ Grace Ashcroft is. Have no fear though, Shanghai Pete does his homework. Apparently, and I had to look this up, she is the daughter of one Alyssa Ashcroft, who was a reporter for some Raccoon City paper, one of those silly Outbreak spin-offs that I couldn't be bothered with that were ultimately little more than ill-conceived promotions for the PS2 network adapter, and I think we all know how that turned out. So great, I guess, Grace Ashcroft. To be fair, I think the character, as it's been explained, sounds fine. The design is fine. I don't really have any specific issues with the character per se, but I do find the choice of using her to be kind of bizarre, I guess. If Capcom wanted a new character, cool. I thought Ethan and his arc turned out fine. Another new character wouldn't be completely unwarranted, but to make a new one that's like sort of already tied to an existing character that's dead, that no one knows about, because aside from a few throwaway references in 7, they were only featured in franchise entries that sold poorly and no one really played, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If Capcom wanted an existing character as the protagonist, why not use one of the many fan favorites customers have been clamoring for over the years? If they wanted someone brand new, why use a half measure and anchor them to some rando no one remembered until like this week? Just seems like an odd choice to me, and I can't really imagine what their angle is with it. Maybe it'll work out and everyone will love Grace. Who knows? Maybe the leaks are true and it's a Raiden style MGS2 bait and switch with beloved best boy Leon S. Kennedy. Who knows? As for my personal preference, I love Leon as much as everyone else, but I don't know, doesn't it kind of feel like we've seen a lot of him recently? Granted, that's a result of new remakes of old games more than it is because of his appearance in any modern RE timeline entries, but the Leon saturation nonetheless is very real, at least to me it is. As far as Chris goes, I think Capcom has kind of beclowned him a little too much recently for me to take him seriously. From the Boulder fiasco in RE5 and whatever the fuck he was doing that took up like 15 pages in the wiki article on him that I tried to read, all the way to his reinvention as some sort of shadowy Spec Ops G-man in more recent titles. Even if you don't think he's become kind of silly, you can't argue that his character and identity has been almost completely upended into something not recognizable as the Chris Redfield we all used to fuck with. I mean, you know, not to be completely unfair, would a game starring the leader of Hound Wolf Squad solving survival horror puzzles a little more than night vision goggles and an assault rifle be cool? Honestly, probably. Yeah, probably. But it's not really what I want to see from the RE franchise right now. So that leaves Jill, Claire, Ada, and maybe Hunk, if you're feeling nasty. All of whom I think I might prefer to see as a protagonist over just more Leon. That being said though, Everyone does love Leon, including me, which makes him not just the safe bet for fan service and customer goodwill, but also, and perhaps far more importantly, the very safe bet for the character best suited to lead a multi-million-dollar franchise into its next 10 years. When in doubt, follow the money, folks, as I'm sure Capcom will.
How do you get funding for something like this? Well, you don't actually think they spend $20,000 on a hammer, $30,000 on a toilet seat, do you?
Lastly, my final reactionary take here is that Raccoon City Redux Take 3 is... that's a no from me, dog. I'm sorry. I hope that what we've been shown so far is little more than just fluff and set dressing as opposed to actual teasers of game locations. Like, I'm sorry to be that guy, am I? But the idea of revisiting Raccoon City just does not do anything for me, and here's why. Aside from the bits of it you see in RE3, like, Raccoon City is not really a character in its own right. The police station, the mansion, the castle, the baker's house, the werewolf village, these are all locations with unique character and stories that live and breathe in our minds and imaginations. Raccoon City itself is just kind of a name, at least to me, and I would rather see brand new things and take part in new stories than stumble through nostalgia bait dressed up in the ghosts and bones of old buzzwords that only matters because of the vibes it made me feel in 1998. Like, think about it. Aside from a few minutes of, oh wow, I remember being here, I hated finding that stupid spade key, what is seeing the ruins of RPD gonna do for you? What gameplay or unique or interesting stories are you going to find there? I mean, sure, it'd be cool to check out for a few minutes, definitely, but after that, I'm just gonna be like, alright, great, but what now? Is there another helicopter crashing at some point that I'll need to hose down again? Is it time to scrounge up a new unicorn medallion? Is another spade etched by a door handle that somehow has become locked again? Like, see what I mean? As something to tickle my nostalgia bone, like, a few shots of familiar locations are all well and good. But as actual locations to set what's supposed to be a brand new chapter of the franchise, I don't know, it's a little more than hollow spectacle and fanboy bait, at least to me. Especially if it's in brown-colored ruins. No one needs more brown, Capcom, alright? And in fairness, as we are always fair here, let's not get it twisted. Could Capcom, with all their wizardry and magical remake and repackaging skills, conjure up something relatively enjoyable from all that? Yeah, sure, probably. But it's not what I prefer. It's not what I want. And unless we're going back to the days of zombies and item boxes, I think the Resident Evil series will ultimately be better served by looking forward. And if that sentiment sounds strange to you, I get it. It did to me, for a while anyway. What changed? Okay, here's a brief sidebar here, and I'll tell you a little story. About 3 years ago, I replayed Code Veronica with Uptown Bobby in its entirety. Originally, we were filming it so we could release it on the channel as a Let's Play. Oh, how naive we were. If you haven't played Code Veronica in the last 10 years or so, and perhaps still questioning the wisdom of pushing the RE franchise forward in RE4, I encourage you to go now and play it, or rather, try to play through it. I didn't recognize it at the time, largely because the majority of my CV experience was via a rented Dreamcast, and as such remained incomplete for years. But with a recent playthrough fresh in your mind, I promise it will become very clear that while Code Veronica fails rather severely at being a good game, it succeeds masterfully as a brutal and painful lesson on precisely why RE4 required the complete series overhaul that it got, and what happens when a franchise begins to run out of new ideas or even good ways to implement old ones. Now, if Capcom wants to do old stuff and remake previous titles, I'm sure they'll go right ahead. There's certainly enough money sitting in customer wallets just waiting to be thrown at exactly those types of products. Shit, if they even want to go back to just scary zombies in a mansion trying to itchy-tasty a bunch of B-movie cops, I mean, fuck, sign me right the hell up for that. But if they want to pull some sort of RE4 biblical level reckoning and evolution with the franchise, as they've been claiming, I don't think retreading the barely recognizable ruins of past series highlights fueled by little more than, oh, remember that vibes, is gonna cut it. Which naturally puts Capcom squarely in territory that few developers are ever entirely comfortable being in. We call that sack territory. That's right, once again, the dev team Shinji Mikami forgot find themselves in the unenviable position of needing to sack up, as they did in the before times. Remember, RE4 took sack. RE7 took sack. Even RE8 took some sack, less so than 407 due to the substantial amount of recycled RE4 vibes involved that time around, but still, sack all the same. And I think we can all agree, for RE9 Requiem or whatever to be successful, large helpings of sack are indeed going to be required. So let's hope Capcom still has the balls for it.
Take a look at the dialing, bitch.
Ooh, it's so veiny.
Whew, all right, that was intensity in 10 cities, my friend. You might be expecting me to call the video here, but no. We're going extra long this time, my friends. So that about covers it for all my hot takes, limited as my exposure to the game was by being someone not important enough to warrant an invite to the behind closed doors demo playthrough. Only special journalists with money and or influence got a peek behind that particular wizard curtain, and as such, the rest of us needed to wait until some gameplay footage was released for the viewing of us mere peasants. And that time has finally arrived, so without further ado, let's take a look. There's this far too revelations-coded, in my opinion, poor title screen. At least they got the original Resident Evil font right, but still, bleh. Not impressed. Oh, it's our boy, Koshi Nakanishi.
恐怖を乗り越えるね気持ちよさそこのカタルスっていう脳汁が出るんですよねそれ自体がもっとやりたい遊びたい
All right, thanks for the fucking Psych 101 lesson. Come on, let's move along. Okay, we got some Code Veronica style Zippo lighter action here. Good. Ugh. Is that something following you again? We don't need more of that, guys. Come on.
バイオハザードで一番重要なのは恐怖体験だと思うんですけれども、今作においてはその恐怖体験っていうところにしっかりと
Yes, you wanted to make the scary game scary. We get it. That's a good concept for a Resident Evil game, guys. I agree.
今回の主人公は FBI 捜査官グレース・アッシュ
Grace Ashikoft.
内向的で怖がりバイオハザード
Good. I see we're keeping up the trend of making hot women in Resident Evil. I like that. Big fan of that.
怖がれるこういうキャラクターを狙っています物語の中でもちろん彼女も恐怖を克服して
Oh, she gets beaten up. A little bloody. Love it. Ah, yes, of course. The classic entry hall with the big staircases. Love it. Very good.
レオンを主人公にしようっていうのは実はずっと
Of course, Leon the
で
protagonist.
もレオンを使ったバッチバチのホラー
Making a horror game based around Leon is difficult. Why? Because he's a big man, and we need some weak woman to jump at all our little jump scares. That's that's a very Japanese take. Although I still think they might be pulling a debate on that one.
ファーストトレーラーご覧になって分かるようにグレース自身がすごいいろんな目に遭うんですね PV で断片的には入ってるんですけれども逆さずり一つとっても顔の赤らみ高揚感であったりとかうっ血してる表現、あとは髪の毛もかなり力を入れてまして自分たちで
Yeah, we had that physics stuff in Half-Life 2 like 20 years ago, man.
そこからシミュレーションして CG に落とし込んだりとか
I mean, it's cool. It's fine, but like, I don't know if I really want to hear about hair in Resident Evil.
遊ぶことができます。主観視点だとその恐怖を間近に感じることができて
Okay, here, nice. They're talking about how you can toggle between first person and third. Like I said earlier in the video, I'm not going to play in third, but I do support it as an option for people who like that. I think that's great.
そういったところがよく見えるゲームプレイになると思いますので、アクションが好きだなって思う方には三人称視点の方がおすすめです。
Oh boy, here we go.
滅菌作戦以降30年近く経つんですけども
Okay.
ゲームの舞台として登場します
その当時アンブレラ事件っていうのでシリーズがヒットしてそれ以降もさまざまな
Yeah, but
がいろんなラクーンシティで起きた事件をきっかけに
I don't think that's why.
人間成長したりそこに今回この表現のメスを入れるっていうのが 作り手としてはやっぱりかなり緊張感を持って臨ませてもらったっていうの
Does it look like they're airbrushing these guys a little bit? Don't they look a little airbrushed? I feel like it looks a little airbrushed.
事件に巻き込まれて大きく人生を変わってしまったり、命を落としてしまったりと、そういった登場人物がたくさん出ます。
Yeah, so many characters have come out of Resident Evil. Some of them, not great. Some of them better than others, I might remind you guys.
生まれたシリーズのある種一つの区切りという。
So the title Requiem because it's the most it's the most cookie cutter, boring, spooky title.
発売予定です。
Requiem. You might as
3月にバイオハザードシリーズ30周
you
年
might as well have called it like
30
Lament.
周年記念タイトルの名に恥じぬようなゲームとして本作リリースしたいなというふうに思っております。
All right, boys, and that is that. Personally,
イエスの母親は
大きく方針を転
oh
換し
wait.
てですね、
実写映画を目指すというところで
Further interviews with the creators that didn't fit into today's presentation will be released today on the Resident Evil.
Ooh, yeah, blah blah. I don't give a shit. Yeah, no Capcom ID. We're not doing any of that. Sorry, you're not getting my fucking email, Capcom. All right, so main thing I noticed there: one, they didn't rip the Band-Aid off the Leon reveal. So for those people still rooting for maybe a return of our boy, I didn't see that ruled out. If anything, I feel like they teased it more. They also did not talk about the game being set anywhere in Raccoon City or the ruins thereof. They just mentioned it. So that so far is fine with me. Like I said earlier, I do not want to go back to see the police station in ruins or to walk down a street and be like, hey, look, it's the Kendo gun shop and now it's brown and you can't go in it because it's destroyed. That doesn't sound fun to me. Not into that. But the gameplay looked fine. I like the Zippo lighter. I think Grace Ashcroft is hot, so I'm going to have no problem playing as her. If they wanted to bait us with Leon, all the better. So far, it was pretty much a pretty generic reveal, but I like what I saw. But the real question is, what do y'all think? But for me, I don't know about you, but for me, I still have not seen the real issue addressed. The biggest issue. The biggest question, the elephant in the room, the most important, most pertinent unknown that we've had to face thus far in this Resident Evil saga. It's what we all want to know. That's what we all need to know. We must. Where are all the real journalists out there who will at long last have the courage to ask the real question? Is it woke?
Woke up, smoke up, blunt, then I pass out. Pass out. Woke up, what up, smoke up, blunt, then I'm back down. Back down. What? Yup, woke up, smoke up, blunt, then I pass out. Pass out. Woke up, what up, smoke up, blunt, then I'm back